Welcome to the Troy Stoeber Show. You don't have to listen, but you're going to hear about it anyway.
You don't have to listen, but you're going to hear about it anyway. Tomorrow at the water cooler, everybody at your work is going to be talking about the Troy Stoeber Show. So why don't you get your information firsthand? My name is Troy Stoeber. I'm your host, and today we have a special guest all the way from Idaho. It's a remote session here at the Troy Stoeber Show. We have Ed Bejarana. Ed, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, Troy?
I'm doing good. I'm really glad that you agreed to come on the show. You're a fascinating guy. First of all, you look like you might be around my age, but you are what I would call like a tech guru. You're the kind of person who I would try to walk behind whenever possible so that brain vibes would kind of flow onto me. So,
plus my girth, I block the wind, so I can make
for that.
There's like some aerodynamic efficiency walking behind.
The weather's always good behind Ed. So our viewers would like to just kind of hear your background, kind of where you're from, and then get into sort of your expertise about technology, your business, and then perhaps go into podcasting and tell us about your latest passion. From Portland?
No, originally from California. My wife and I left the liberal bastion of the West Coast back in 2003 and moved to Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And then you and I met right around 2008 when I started working with you at the establishment you were at the time.
Okay. Very good. And so your background is are you in kind of like visual arts or graphic design? Because for a long time, I think you, at least when I knew you, you were kind of making displays, like business displays for expos, and kind of charts and graphs and kind of logos and stuff like that.
Well, I had a very interesting path in my career. I actually started as a professional musician. I started playing professionally at the age of 9. I was in the San Jose and in the Santa Cruz Symphony. But I was a military musician. I was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany with the 3rd Armored Division Band. But when I got out of the Army, the ripe old age of 23, I retired from music, went and got my computer science degree. And I was a computer programmer. And I did some of the programming for a little startup company back then that became the #1 search engine. You might have heard of them, Yahoo. They would have hired me. They offered me a job, but I didn't think it had a future.
You guessed wrong on that one, Ed.
Well, sorta, but I had reasons. But I went into engineering. I was a facilities engineer at Texas Instruments in Santa Cruz, California. Honestly, I'd still be doing that job had they not closed the plant down. Mm-hmm. But after the dot-com bubble burst, I wanted to get away from the semiconductor industry. Okay. So we moved to Portland, Oregon. There I took a job as a project manager running marketing events for Nike. I did all of the Asia Pacific division coordination for their marketing events through a subsidiary company, or I guess a third-party company, Acme Scenic and Display. And in that company, I took over as the director of the trade show division. And that's when I fell in love with trade show displays. So in 2007, when I struck out on my own, Zenith Exhibits was formed as a trade show company. But because of my background in computer science and the internet, web development became a cornerstone. And I really do a little bit of everything. But my business over the last 15 years has been mostly in the digital realm, website development, search optimization, and now podcasting, heavy podcasting.
That's extraordinary. To me, one of the things that sticks out right away is how disparate, I don't know how very different those different, kind of career paths have taken for you. And yet, I consider, as a medical professional, one of my greatest assets, the ability to be really creative. And so if you had a background in music, I mean, to me, what that tells me is that, you have a great deal of creativity, and I know that comes in handy when it comes to, building websites, learning technology. Tell me about specifically podcasting. How'd you get interested in it? What do you like about it? And then tell me, about your production so far, because you said you were pretty prolific when it came to like hundreds of podcast episodes. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but this is episode number 4 of the Troy Stoeber Show, so I have a ways to go yet.
Well, we all start at episode 1. Nobody gets to cheat that one. But actually, I got into podcasting purely accidental. I had a phone call in 2017 from a friend who said, "Hey, I've got a friend who's just lost all of his traffic on his website. Can you take a look and try to figure out what's happened?" So I did, and come to find out, Google was censoring their content. They had decided that their particular keywords were no longer keywords that they wanted to support. He was an antique gun dealer. So Google just blanked out gun, pistol, rifle, shooting, all of those keywords which were important to his business. And he lost basically 90% of his traffic. His entire business was on the internet. So that started me down a quest to figure out, how do I get my customers around censorship? I work with a lot of conservative customers. I've always kind of cornered myself in the conservative marketplace. I always feel that they kind of get a bum rap. We conservatives are canceled more than just about any other political ideology.
That's true.
And so I felt, well, if you got half of America that are being canceled, I'm going to go ahead and serve those 150 million people. I think I can make a living off of that. So I was about to sign a deal with Alpha Broadcasting there in Portland to be a buyer, a radio time buyer. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should take a look at podcasting. It's really been growing." Now, because of my technology centering, I beta tested podcasting in 2001 when it first came out. So I wasn't too impressed with the features, with the ability to record and publish. It was real difficult back in 2001. But when I took a look at it again in 2017, I got pretty excited. So then it was just a question, can I get around Google censorship? Mm-hmm. So in 2018, I started a test. Of course, being the good engineer that I am, I had to write the parameters and the variables. So I wrote that, and then I was talking with a friend saying, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do." And he said, "Hey, I'd like to do that with you." So I put 2 podcasts out into the ecosphere, Business Buffet and then Conservatives Guide to American Politics. I had to have something that would be censored in order for me to do this test. So we published.
You were baiting the big corporation, weren't you? You were
big time.
Baiting high-tech media.
What I found in just 20 some episodes, not only could I get around the Google censorship in the podcast ecosphere, but I could get around the Google censorship on the main search engine. Google, because of the competition in the podcast world, Google isn't censoring this content. So conservatives, at least right now, have a carte blanche access. If they do it right, if they produce the metadata correctly, they can get around the censorship and get their website content found by the general audience. So by Christmas of 2019, I was all in. I invested thousands of dollars in my own studio equipment and education. I basically went back to school to learn how to be an interviewer. And here we are, some 600 episodes later.
That's so exciting. So the one that I'm most familiar with is Idaho Speaks. And that's one where you do a lot of interviewing of aspiring political personalities, people who are running for office. They get a platform, and you do a great job of going over the issues that affect the people in that community, and you get the candidates to give their positions. So I've appreciated that one. I've had the opportunity to see a few of your episodes. And also, Ed, it's been a while since I've actually seen you, and that's relevant because you also sound different when you're on a podcast. So I don't know if you have voiceover or voice acting talent or aspirations or that's in your repertoire anywhere. But when I just visit with you and we're having beer and watching the Super Bowl together, you seem like the guy from the neighborhood. But when you come across on the podcast, and I could hear this like in like advertising or promotions or whatever the case may be, you sound different. So it's hard for me to reconcile the picture of Ed, my buddy Ed, with like this amazing voice. So do you have any comments about that?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. While I retired from music, I was a percussionist. I played concert marimba and jazz vibes. That was my axe. That's what I did. While I retired from those, I didn't retire from music completely. I was a barbershop harmony singer. So I've been singing literally my entire life. Lots and lots and lots of voice lessons, acting lessons for voiceovers. I do a lot of voiceovers. You'll hear me on a lot of telephone systems. I haven't done any movies or TV commercials yet, but yeah, voiceovers is an area that I've really been targeting. Real estate, episodes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Any place where a baritone male voice is necessary.
Okay. Oh, very good. At the end of the day, it seems like your career path has taken the path that the customer expressed a need. Even if they didn't know they needed it, you helped them realize they needed it. We need to have a website. We need to have a table display. We need to develop a brand. We need to get away from censorship. And all that, like I said before, I think that there's a certain amount of creativity that's involved in that whole process.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate you recognizing that. The business that I'm in is service. When I was creating the business plan for Zenith Exhibits, I wrestled with the concept. Am I a technologist or am I a service provider that works in technology? And you've even heard me say it when I was working on your projects. I'm like your technical surrogate, but I have a business degree as well. I have a minor in economics and financial accounting. So I go well beyond the ones and zeros. I get to what is the core competency of your business? Who do you work with? Mm-hmm. Who are your success stories? And what do they like? What tickles their fancy? And then I take that business savvy using my technical knowledge, and we come up with a plan that's totally unique for that customer.
And to me, that sums it up very well. That's why I said at first it seems like it's all these disparate parts, but it all makes sense. And a lot of the answers that you arrive at come because you listen so well.
I had to teach the client how to be self-sufficient. I could not be the bottleneck. Goldratt is a very influential character in my college days. The book, The Goal. And the theory of constraints is an important concept that Zenith Exhibits just adheres to with every ounce of my fiber. I am not going to be your bottleneck. I'm going to empower you to succeed. Mm-hmm. And if that means building a website, teaching you how to use it, get out of your way, then I'm there for when you need. The latest podcast approach, direction, channel, I guess, if you will, is Baby Boomers Radio. And this is kind of the story behind this network is kind of a thesis of where I'm going, what I saw in the marketplace and what I'm trying to address. I put the stories that I heard during COVID where grandma is sitting at home alone or in a retirement community alone, can't visit with her kids except through a Zoom screen or through the plate glass window as the kids are standing outside being separated. And they're completely disconnected from the world. And then I watch TV and listen to the radio, and it's garbage. The stuff that's being produced today is just absolute garbage.
Except for the Troy Stoeber Show, I'm assuming.
Except for the Troy Stoeber Show.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about cable TV. So with the COVID thing, it left grandma in her room by herself, literally scratching at the glass while the kids are stuck outside. And she's left with TV and radio that's got nothing but garbage. And so I wanted to create something that grandma could listen to while she's waiting for the grandkids to get around to talking to her, where it was a bit of nostalgia. I mean, I grew up in the area where we listened to radio as a family, where we gathered around the console and we listened to the programs that were produced entirely on the radio. That's what I grew up in. That's what I think is really good content. And I think anybody who's a boomer or older would appreciate. So I created Baby Boomers Radio with the idea of being a network, not just a single podcast channel. It's not just me. I have a master gardener. I have a pastor. Somebody's getting on there with the word of God, preaching the gospel. I have people that are on there talking about Medicare, about assisted living, about finances. This Thursday, January 13th, I've got an episode with an author out of Bend, Oregon, talking about how he traveled the world around the financial concept that his grandmother taught him. It's a fantastic episode. Wow. Okay. So I wanted to create something to help senior citizens connect to the world that they remembered when they were younger.
And to be honest, they may not know how easy that process can be. Again, if the way you've always done something or you've always kind of been exposed to a certain way of doing things, sometimes it's not even conceivable what technology can actually do for you. And that's really where the creativity comes into play. You're teaching them how to be creative enough to receive that kind of a service. We're gonna go with catchy sayings first. Now, I give you a choice, Ed, and the catchy sayings one is just a crapshoot. So you never really know what you're gonna get. There's door number 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so you just pick a number.
Let's go with door 3, please.
Door 3, please. The whole idea here is for me to give you some kind of brilliant comeback. Do you remember there was a Seinfeld episode when George Costanza was trying to figure out like the timing of leaving or stopping the conversation, he was like the original mic drop. So these are little quips that you can drop on your podcast, and that'll be kind of cool. To be cool, you want to take what everybody else is saying and do a little twist on it, and you'll not only help people understand, but I think you'll actually communicate better. So what I got for you today is Noah didn't build the ark when it was raining. What does that mean to you, Ed?
Well, it means that he was thinking ahead. He was planning ahead. He knew that eventually there was going to be a lake right where he was going to lay out some wood, and why not build a boat?
So when you're having a conversation on a podcast and you're trying to make a point and you're trying to say, hey, we need to be prepared and be, thoughtful and exhibit some foresight, you can say, hey, Noah didn't build the ark when it was raining.
There you go.
All right.
A little Stoeber wisdom that I can drop on him.
The brain vibes are flowing up here, I'm telling you right now. Banal, bucolic, esoteric, and perfunctory. So, and like I said, so just since I know you're familiar with all of them, why don't you just pick the one
I'm not familiar with banal. I'm not
banal?
familiar with that word.
Okay, let's go for banal.
Pronunciation is banal.
Banal. My technical experts, and I do appreciate that.
Because that's a completely different show on the porn channel.
That's not G-rated. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to go back onto you pretty soon here, but let me give the definition first. Banal is so lacking in originality as to be obvious and boring. Songs with banal repeated words. So nothing here is terribly creative. It's the same old stuff. We got, everything's predictable and, no originality.
Okay, so you want me to use that word in a sentence?
And more importantly, I want you to commit yourself to using that word Again, I don't think you're going to be able to leave the Troy Stoeber Show and never say banal again, or banal, or whatever it is, and be effectively using it. So you have to be committed to trying to use the word banal in your language and incorporate it. Okay, so I want you to change. I want you to change from the Troy Stoeber Show.
Here we go. So I've got the commitment. You know, I was sitting with some friends having coffee the other day, and we were talking about politics. And, you know, it came to me as they were sharing the most recent speech from, I don't know, the politician du jour at the time. And I thought, you know, the problem is the things those politicians are saying are just so banal. I just don't know how we can survive as a society.
You did it, Ed. Oh, man, you made me so proud. Yes, perfect. I can't wait for the next time you're having coffee. You'll be like, banal. And then they're going to ask you about it. They're going to be like, wow, what are you talking about? That's pretty impressive.
No, they're probably going to say, what you just trying to be snooty and obnoxious using words we don't know?
So we're going to the Art Vault. Here at Art Vault, we have child endangerment, Idaho from the Heart. I picked that one out for you. It's curated for you. I don't know if you know this or not.
Perfect. Love it.
Laser wood geometry and micrography. Which one of those would you pick?
What was the first one again?
Child endangerment.
Let's go there. I think I can have fun with that one.
You're not going to regret that one at all. That's outstanding. Okay, so this is a case where there's a guy who's a tech guru, kind of like you, who's really, really good at Photoshop. And what he does is whenever his wife calls him and asks him how the kids are doing, he sends her a picture of the kids as they are currently, supposedly in their current state of affairs. One of the babies being carted off by a seagull. Let's see here.
I've seen these memes, so I know what you're talking about. You've seen these memes?
He's teaching kids to, use swear words. Off they go in a balloon. So, I mean, and the thing is, like, his talent for Photoshop, I think, and his creativity, right? This is extraordinary. He's got various pictures of him washing the kid in the washing machine, doing trick skateboards over top of little defenseless babies, cleaning, imperiling them while they're cleaning the floor, barbecuing them actually those little baby barbecues are called baby tisseries, like rotisseries.
Right.
I want to point out, in case like you just turned on the TV, this is actually not real. These are photoshopped images, and they are very talented Photoshop images, but what we're dealing with here is not an actual child endangerment scenario. I had to put that disclaimer on, Ed, because
but this one's ideal. I mean, you've got the kid who really is more capable of falling than the father. Right. I mean, as we get older, we can't fall from those heights without breaking something. But this child, my goodness, he could fall from those heights and just stand right up.
No big deal. And I mean, they don't even cry. Here we got a kid up on top of the.
Boy, and if I had a nickel every time this happened to me when I was performing. I mean, I always had some kid on my shoulders when I was playing drums.
Ed, I have a feeling you're being facetious. Is that a vocabulary word?
We've already finished a vocabulary. That's so banal. Come on, that is just so banal. I like this one because now this is teaching them balance right off the bat. You don't see many toddlers that age that are standing.
No.
I mean, so, usually they're still crawling around at this age. So that's developing the leg muscles. It's really doing a lot. I'm afraid of heights. This one's tough for me. I don't like heights.
You might want to look away.
Yeah. But again, I go back to the default. I mean, if he falls, he's probably not going to break anything. Well, and here's a good one. Now, this is what's missing out of schools today. We are not teaching our kids the trades early enough. I think we need to be providing them an education in something to fall back on. Not everybody needs a college education.
I'm with you, Ed. This is about being practical. Okay, that's a skill you can use.
That's right.
Happened? Did you have home ec? You had home ec and shop and all that stuff.
That's right.
I
had all kinds of classes that I didn't like.
I mean, it's like a PE class at home, right? Developing physical skills and eye-hand coordination and stuff like that.
That's right. That's right.
No,
that's right.
You can't go wrong. Let's see. Oh, and the last one we have here
Oh.
is technical instruction on electrical installation.
You know, when I was in college, after all of those long nights of study, and I would really be struggling with falling asleep. I always thought, it'd be good if I could get a little jolt right now. So, but if I would have stuck my finger in a light socket in college, it would have killed me because I hadn't worked up to it. You gotta work into this.
It's like a conditioning, right? You
that's
wanna,
right.
like,
You gotta
make
build
sure
up the
that,
callus.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Do you know who else is good at electrical installation? Let me tell you, Cox Electric. They're located in Salem, Oregon, and Zandy Cox and her crew of wonderful electricians will be happy to install your electrical warehouse lighting, electricity. And so we want to thank Cox Electric for being a sponsor of the Troy Stoeber Show. What a great segue, Ed Bejarana. I'm just going to close by thanking Ed Bejarana for being my guest today on the Troy Stoeber Show. Thank you for all the viewers at home tuning in. I hope you learned a thing or two. Maybe you learned a new word, a new catchphrase. Just going to make you that much more efficient at communicating, at understanding, at being creative. And that's really what we're all about here at the Troy Stoeber Show. So, Ed, thanks again for being here.